You're listening to Underground USA News.
Thursday, August 21, 2025, in a significant victory for former President Donald Trump, a New York appellate court has struck down a nearly $500 million civil fraud penalty imposed by State Attorney General Letitia James, deeming it excessive and a violation of the Eighth Amendment. The court upheld findings that Trump and his company engaged in fraudulent practices by inflating asset values, but eliminated the massive financial penalty, while affirming James' authority to impose injunctive relief to regulate Trump Organization practices. This ruling, which leaves Trump's liability intact but removes the crippling fine, marks a rare win for the former president amid ongoing legal battles, with potential further proceedings looming before New York's highest court. Critics of the original penalty argue it was politically motivated, while supporters of James maintain the fraud scale justified her actions. The United States and the European Union have finalized a trade agreement that caps U.S. tariffs on EU exports, including cars, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors, at 15%, averting a potential trade war while promoting fairer economic competition. Announced on August 21, 2025, the deal, built on negotiations led by President Trump and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, includes EU commitments to purchase $750 billion in U.S. energy and invest $600 billion in the American economy, strengthening supply chains and domestic industries like steel and aluminum. While some European sectors, such as generic pharmaceuticals and aircraft, will face lower most favored nation tariffs starting September 1st, concerns linger among European leaders about the deal's balance. Though it's seen as a pragmatic step to stabilize transatlantic trade, this framework reflects a strategic move to prioritize American interests while maintaining critical global partnerships. Leaked internal emails reveal that the Environmental Protection Agency worked to discredit independent scientist Scott Smith, who discovered elevated dioxin levels in East Palestine, Ohio soil following the February 2023 train derailment and controlled burn of hazardous chemicals. Despite the EPA's claims that the area was safe for residents to return, Smith's findings contradicted the agency's narrative, prompting the EPA to surveil him, collect personal information, and even monitor his activities with drones. According to reports, residents claim the agency ignored their health concerns while prioritizing narrative control over public safety. The Trump administration has pledged a transparent review of the EPA's actions to address the ongoing health impacts felt by the community. An independent investigation reveals that senior U.S. intelligence officials concealed classified evidence suggesting COVID-19 originated from a lab leak, granting undue influence to Dr. Anthony Fauci and his allies while sidelining dissenting spy scientists. The report claims that signals intelligence from 2019, indicating a major emergency in Wuhan, was withheld from President Trump's briefings, and genetic evidence pointing to lab engineering was omitted from public reports under the Biden administration. Despite Fauci's frequent National Security Council meetings, he avoided mentioning the Wuhan lab as a potential source, raising concerns about transparency and accountability in public health and intelligence operations. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has announced a significant overhaul of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, reducing its workforce by over 40% to streamline operations and cut costs, aligning with President Trump's directive to root out inefficiencies and deep state elements within the intelligence community. The initiative, dubbed ODNI 2.0, aims to eliminate bureaucratic bloat, reduce redundancies, and refocus the agency on its core mission of delivering unbiased intelligence, with an estimated savings of $700 million annually for taxpayers. Gabbard's reforms include reassigning some employees, returning DDLEs to their original agencies, and closing certain ODNI divisions, such as the Foreign Malign Influence Center, while merging the National Intelligence University with the National Defense University. This decisive action follows her earlier move to revoke security clearances from 37 officials linked to the Trump-Russia hoax, signaling a commitment to restoring trust and accountability in the intelligence community. U.S. Attorney General Pirro has directed federal prosecutors in Washington, D.C. to cease pursuing felony charges against individuals carrying registered rifles or shotguns. regardless of evidence, citing the unconstitutionality of the district's blanket ban under landmark Supreme Court rulings like District of Columbia versus Heller and New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Broom. This policy shift, developed with the Department of Justice, allows law-abiding citizens with permits to carry these firearms without fear of prosecution, while PIRO maintains a firm commitment to targeting illegal gun possession and violent crime, especially amid the Trump administration's push to curb DC's crime rates, which she and the president argue remain unacceptably high despite recent declines. Critics may see this as softening on gun enforcement, but supporters view it as a necessary correction to overreaching local laws, ensuring constitutional compliance while still prioritizing public safety through aggressive prosecution of felons and illegal firearm cases. In a move to uphold the integrity of the U.S. citizenship process, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services has issued a new policy memorandum emphasizing a more rigorous evaluation of applicants' good moral character. The directive, aligning with President Trump's merit-based immigration agenda, instructs officers to conduct a holistic assessment, considering not only criminal history, but also community involvement, financial responsibility, and adherence to societal norms. This shift aims to ensure that new citizens embody the values of responsible citizenship, though critics argue the subjective criteria may lead to inconsistent decisions. The policy expands scrutiny to include minor offenses like DUIs and even non-criminal behaviors such as habitual traffic infractions, reinforcing a commitment to high standards for naturalization. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals determined that a man born in New York City in 1950 to a Nicaraguan attaché with diplomatic immunity is not a U.S. citizen, overturning prior government assertions of his birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. The court clarified that children of foreign diplomats who are not subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. do not automatically acquire citizenship at birth, aligning with a strict interpretation of constitutional law. This decision underscores ongoing debates about the scope of birthright citizenship and could influence future legal challenges to immigration policies. Critics argue it sets a precedent for limiting citizenship rights, while supporters view it as a necessary clarification of constitutional intent. Nexstar Media Group, the largest owner of local TV stations in the U.S., announced plans to acquire Tegna, the fourth largest broadcaster, for $6.2 billion, raising alarms among conservatives about further media consolidation. The deal, which would create a dominant media conglomerate controlling 265 stations across 44 states, faces scrutiny from the Federal Communications Commission due to existing ownership caps limiting broadcasters to 39% of U.S. TV households. Critics argue that Nexstar's history of leveraging loopholes like the UHF discount and its ownership of the left-leaning News Nation could threaten media diversity and local news coverage. A 33-page FCC filing on July 23 emphasized that such consolidation risks concentrating political power in the hands of a few corporations, potentially stifling diverse voices and undermining the public interest. The Democrat Party is grappling with a significant decline in voter support, with over 2 million voters abandoning the party between 2020 and 2024, according to a detailed analysis. This exodus spans battleground, blue and red states, with Republicans gaining ground in every state that tracks party registration. The trend is particularly stark among new voters, where the Democrat share has plummeted from 63% in 2018 to under 48% in 2024, while Republicans have surged ahead. Notably, the gender gap has widened, with men increasingly favoring the GOP, doubling the Democrat advantage among women. This shift, coupled with a growing preference for independent registration, signals a challenging road ahead for Democrats as they struggle to maintain their traditional base. A federal judge in Philadelphia has ordered CVS Health's pharmacy benefit manager, Caremark, to pay $289.9 million in damages and penalties for defrauding Medicare Part D by overcharging for prescription drugs in 2013 and 2014. The ruling stems from a whistleblower lawsuit filed by Sarah Bank, a former Aetna actuary, who exposed Caremark's practice of inflating drug prices reported to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services while paying pharmacies like Rite Aid and Walgreens less, pocketing the difference. Chief Judge Mitchell Goldberg, finding the fraud financially motivated, tripled the initial $95 million damages, and added $4.87 million in civil penalties, emphasizing the breach of public trust in Medicare's integrity. CVS plans to appeal, arguing the ruling unfairly targets its practices. But the decision underscores the need for transparency in healthcare pricing to protect taxpayers and beneficiaries. Darren Borders, an investigator in Kansas State University's Office of Civil Rights and Title IX, has been revealed as a member of the Kansas Socialist Book Club, a secretive Marxist group advocating for the total destruction of Israel and expressing support for Hamas, including defending the murder of Israeli civilians. The group's manifesto explicitly states it has no sympathy for Israeli casualties and endorses violent acts, raising serious concerns about Borders' role in a department tasked with ensuring a discrimination-free environment. His prior tenure at Cornell University, where he faced criticism for defending Hamas's actions as resistance, further complicates his suitability for handling sensitive civil rights issues. This revelation highlights the need for universities to thoroughly vet personnel in roles meant to uphold fairness and impartiality, particularly amid rising campus tensions. Recent reports indicate that globalist organizations, facing significant resistance, are rebranding their woke capitalism agenda, previously tied to initiatives like the Great Reset and ESG frameworks. Once openly promoted by groups like the World Economic Forum, these efforts sought to integrate progressive ideologies into corporate and governmental policies, but public pushback and the failure of programs like vaccine passports have forced a strategic retreat. Critics argue this shift, now cloaked in vague terms like multipolar world order, reflects an attempt to salvage influence after misjudging public tolerance for centralized control and social engineering. The move signals a broader decline in globalist momentum, with conservative voices highlighting the resilience of individual freedoms against such agendas. In a chilling display of cartel brutality, 6 severed heads were found scattered across a road connecting Puebla and Tlaxcala, 2 typically peaceful states in central Mexico, on Tuesday morning, August 19, 2025. The gruesome scene, accompanied by a threatening message signed by a group called La Barradora, has rattled local communities and prompted a swift investigation by authorities, who are grappling with the rare outbreak of such extreme violence in the region. While the motive remains unclear, local reports suggest ties to fuel smuggling and gang rivalries, highlighting the persistent challenge of curbing organized crime despite ongoing efforts by Mexico's government to crack down on drug trafficking. This incident underscores the need for stronger measures to restore safety and order in areas increasingly vulnerable to cartel influence. Israel has initiated a significant military operation, dubbed Operation Gideon's Chariots II, targeting Gaza City to dismantle Hamas, the terrorist organization responsible for the October 7, 2023 attack that killed approximately 1,200 Israelis and took over 250 hostages. The Israel Defense Forces, backed by 60,000 reservists, aim to seize Hamas's remaining stronghold, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu emphasizing the necessity to free Gaza from the group's control while establishing a non-Hamas civilian administration. This escalation follows Hamas's acceptance of a 60-day truce proposal, which would involve releasing half of the remaining 50 hostages. Though Netanyahu's commitment to fully defeating Hamas has cast doubt on ceasefire prospects, critics, including international leaders, warn of worsening humanitarian conditions in Gaza, where over 46,700 Palestinians, mostly civilians, have reportedly died since the conflict began, according to proven-to-be biased Gaza's health ministry. Taiwan's military has taken a page from Ukraine's innovative tactics in its ongoing preparations for a potential Chinese invasion, adapting AGM-114 Hellfire missiles for launch from civilian trucks to enhance its asymmetric warfare capabilities. This strategic move, inspired by Ukraine's successful use of truck-mounted Brimstone missiles, allows for covert deployment, rapid response, and flexible strikes, aligning with Taiwan's porcupine strategy to deter a militarily superior adversary. By integrating helicopter fire control systems into mobile land-based platforms, Taiwan aims to counter threats like China's naval and armored forces, while minimizing vulnerabilities seen in Ukraine. such as the susceptibility of attack helicopters to ground-based defenses. This development illustrates Taiwan's commitment to self-reliance and adaptability in the face of escalating regional tensions. A Ukrainian man identified as Serhiy K. was arrested in Italy for his alleged role in coordinating the 2022 Nord Stream pipeline explosions, a significant act of sabotage that disrupted Russia's gas supply to Europe and heightened geopolitical tensions. German prosecutors state that Serhiy K. was part of a group that used a chartered yacht from Rostock, Germany, to plant explosives near Denmark's Bornholm Island, damaging both Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines. The arrest marks a breakthrough in the ongoing German investigation, with Ukraine denying any involvement despite earlier reports suggesting a pro-Ukrainian group's role. This development raises questions about accountability and the broader implications for European energy security and the Ukraine conflict. A Russian military drone identified as a Shad variant crashed and exploded in a cornfield in eastern Poland's Lublin province, roughly 100 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, prompting Polish officials to label the incident a deliberate provocation by the Kremlin. The crash, which occurred overnight and caused minor property damage but no injuries, has heightened concerns in Poland, a NATO and EU member, about Russian aggression as peace talks falter. Polish authorities, including Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, condemned the airspace violation, with the Foreign Ministry issuing a formal protest to Russia. The incident underscores the ongoing volatility of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, with fears of escalation as NATO strengthens regional defenses, including Dutch commitments to bolster Poland's air defenses. This event, coupled with prior airspace violations, reinforces the need for vigilance and robust national security measures to counter external threats. The Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo is witnessing a horrific surge in violence, with Rwanda-backed M23 rebels and Congolese army-supported Wazalendo militias committing widespread atrocities, including mass killings and gang rapes, according to multiple human rights reports. Human Rights Watch documented at least 140 civilian deaths by M23 in July alone, with potential totals exceeding 300, while Amnesty International detailed summary executions, hospital attacks, and sexual violence by both groups, noting these acts may constitute war crimes. Despite U.S. and Qatar-brokered peace talks, the brutality persists, targeting civilians to instill fear and control, underscoring the urgent need for accountability and international intervention to protect vulnerable populations in this mineral-rich region.
You're listening to Underground USA News.